or four motors, four propellers. You can have different configurations of this. You can have octocopters that have eight propellers or eight engines. You can have drones that have multiple layers of propellers. So you can have a propeller on top and then a prop on the bottom. It just depends. The other type of drone, and these are the ones that kind of you would see doing more like your military things, are called fixed wing drones. These are drones that actually look like little planes. We're going to talk about the pros and cons of going quadcopter versus fixed wing. And then finally, you have something like this example in the bottom right, which is called a hybrid drone, where you can see it has motors and propellers, but then it also has wings. So it kind of takes the best of both worlds and mixes the quadcopter and the fixed wing to make a more robust design. Also, drones, you'll hear them referred to as UAVs. These are unmanned aerial vehicles. That's the explanation. So oftentimes in a professional sense, like when somebody's a UAV pilot, there's a drone. Okay, DJ says, you know one of those drones. Which drone do you know, DJ? Let me know. Oh, the white one? Yeah, yeah, yeah. The white one's pretty popular. Um, and then this one in the bottom is actually one that NASA designed because I got to see it in real life. It's actually super cool. The wings are like 10 meters wide or something. It's a big drone. It doesn't look big in the picture, but it's massive. So just to kind of go over a brief history, and I mean very brief, covering the evolution of drones. They were originally developed, like many things, for military use, especially a lot of planes and stuff. They trace much of their history back to the military. In this case, the earliest recorded instance of a drone that I could find was in 1849. It was basically a unmanned balloon carrier, and then from there, throughout the 1900s, drones, or UAVs, as we like to call them in a professional sense, saw significant development. This was mostly because of, you guessed it, World War I and World War II. The picture on the slide is actually Winston Churchill, and he is looking at one of the new drones that the British invented to help uh, fight in World War II. One of the big things, and I guess this would be the most important aspect for us, is that in the 1980s and the 1990s, you saw a lot of technology doing something called miniaturization, which means the technology was just getting smaller and more compact and more efficient. And what that did is it eventually led to the commercial drones that you see today. I would say drones started really becoming popular around commercially for recreational use. Cyril, Sorfel, would you guys say around like 2010? That's when I really like, drones have been around for a minute, but
Yeah,
everybody started using them in 2010. Yeah.
yeah, 2010, yeah, 2010.
Yeah. And so again, these little toys that you see here, at one point or another, this comes from military technology that of course came down the pipeline and eventually to the rest of us. So now let's talk about the three main types of drones. The first one is fixed wings. And again, we call them fixed wing because they are structures, they look like airplanes, and they have wings like an airplane. So as an engineer, one thing that I think is crucial for people to understand is trade-offs. So pros and cons. Every design that you make will have trade-offs to a certain extent. There will be things that are good, things that are bad. And so as we're covering these designs, I want to review the pros and cons of each so that way you know, just in case you ever are in the market for a drone and you need to consider what use case you have. So with these fixed wing drones, the pros are that they have really long flight times and they can cover large areas. I mean, especially if you get like a small engine with motors and our small engines, small jet engines. I mean, these things can have a range of hundreds of miles. Um, the con to these fixed wing drones is that just like airplanes, they can't take off without a runway, and they can't land without a runway. And they also don't have the ability to hover. They can do something called loiter, where they fly around in a circle, but it's very difficult for them just to like stay still in one spot. So typically, these fixed wing drones are used for things like mapping, surveillance, agriculture. The military loves these things. This drone right here is actually an MQ. It's a Reaper, which is a really popular drone that the U.S. military likes to use. So yeah, that's the fixed wing drone. Here, let me check the comments. Uh, okay. So Jasmine has a question. Sometimes I see a sign that says speed tracked by aircraft. How does this work? So this could eventually be done by drones. I know back in the day it was actually done with helicopters, but what they would do is there would be a helicopter or drone. If you had, in theory, it could be a drone. It would be hovering up in the air, and what it would do is it would look at your car, and then it would start tracking you at a mile marker, and then it would see how long it took you to travel to the next mile marker. And if you went faster than the speed limit, they would get a picture of your license and send you a ticket. So that's how that works. The aircraft is in the air. They're tracking you, seeing how long it takes you to travel a mile. And if you go too fast, they know you're speeding, so they'll ticket you. So the next type of drone is something called the rotary wing drone. These are the drones that you're used to seeing. The white one from the other picture. This is the DJI Mavic Pro, the drone that you have for this workshop. They're all basically drones with multiple propellers. Typically, they tend to be quadcopter configurations, but again, you can have six hexacopters, opticopters, etc. So you have multiple configurations, but again, the thing is that they have engines and propellers, and there's more than one. Um, so the pro of this design is that it is capable of something called VTOL, which stands for vertical takeoff and landing. What that means is that for this drone to lift up, it doesn't need a runway. It can just go straight in the air. And then for it to land, it can just land straight down to the ground. Another pro of this design is that it can hover easily, and it's very easy to control, hence why they're popular for things like toys and commercial recreational uses. Here, let me see the chat. Oh, MQ1? Yes, thank you. I couldn't remember. I know it was MQ something, but yeah, the Reaper is that one was very prominent, especially in the 2010s. Um, so the cons of this are that they have shorter flight times because again, you're not as aerodynamically efficient. So these things don't like to stay in the air. If you take a fixed wing drone, for example, or any kind of airplane, even if you cut the engine, it's still going to be able to glide for a little while before it falls to the ground. For these rotary drones, if you cut off the engines, it's going to fall straight to the ground, no questions asked. So the use cases for this type of drone, people use them for all kinds of things, including inspections, recreational flying, so like flying them around just for fun, aerial photography. I don't know if you guys have ever been to a wedding where they'll have drones taking pictures of the wedding, but things like that. So again, these rotary ring drones are very easy to control, and because of that, they're super popular. And then finally, the last type of drone that I want to cover is something called a hybrid drone. What this does is it combines parts of fixed wings and rotary wing drones together. And so you get something like in this picture where it has wings like an airplane, but then it also has propellers like this quadcopter. In this case, a really common design is that, actually, no, let me talk about the pros first, then we can go on to the design. So the pros of this hybrid drone are that it can do the things that the other types of drones do well, which is it can fly long distances because it's able to glide, and then it's also capable of vertical takeoff and landing. So it's much easier. It can hover, it can take off, it can land really easily. Um, the cons to this, the cons to this, as many hybrid designs, if anybody is familiar with engineering, you know this, but whenever you try to put things together, it often becomes more expensive to make. It costs a lot more money, and it makes things complicated. So for example, with this is the GL10, I believe. With this drone, what it has to do is that if you want it to hover like a quadcopter, you actually have to take the wings and rotate them up 90 degrees. So that way the propellers are facing the ground, and then it will hover up into the air. And then when it wants to go into fixed wing mode, the wings have to rotate 90 degrees again and face forward like a plane. So that way it can glide and do all those other things. So it's not, unfortunately, you've got to take that into your design consideration. You actually have to physically move the wing, which is pretty intense. Yes, just like the Osprey. Exactly, DJ. Just like the Osprey. Um, which the Osprey is an awesome plane. Like I see those flying occasionally, and I think they're so cool. So these drones, their use cases are for things like cargo delivery and specialized applications. I know there was a blood bank that I think talked about using drones to actually deliver blood to hospitals, and aircraft like this would be perfect for an application like that. Let me see the comments. Yeah, zip line. Okay. Moving on. Now, I don't know what drone zipline uses exactly, but they, again, something like this would be actually really helpful for their use cases. All right, so drone applications. So drone applications can be split into three main categories. The first one is recreational. This is, flying for fun, photography. You're not really trying to like do a job with this or make any money. And in most cases, you don't need any licenses or any prior approval from a body like the FAA. You can just kind of, as long as you're following basic safety and guidelines, you can just take the drone and fly it. The next application is going to be commercial applications, and this is for flying. This is flying for industries such as agriculture, construction, delivery. So, in order to do this, at least to do this legally, you do need a license. In the United States, you would have to get a Part 107 from the FAA. There are other governing bodies depending on which country you're in. Like Europe has its own. I know different countries in Africa have their own. So again, if you're planning to fly a drone to actually make money, then you need to check with your local regulations to determine what licenses and insurances and things that you need. But this can be a very lucrative thing. At one point, drone pilots were making a lot of money. So I know plenty of people that actually, as a side hustle, they go and get their Part 107 from the FAA, and then they fly drones as on the side or like for weddings, and they make decent money. The last application for drones, you guessed it, is the military. In this case, you're doing things like flying for reconnaissance, surveillance, or combat. You can, let's say that there is a specific zone that the United States military is interested in. Rather than send people over, they can just send a drone over to take pictures. Actually, if I'm not mistaken, we had I heard a story about a drone that actually drops knives on people, and that's how members of the Taliban were getting. That's how the military was dealing with members of the Taliban. Is rather than sending guns or anything explosive, they would just have a drone, and the drone would like throw a knife at them. It's a really interesting application. Um, Here, something came in from the chat. Is that different than the Raytheon? I might be getting them confused. Or I think conceptually, I remember seeing the concept for a drone that can do that. Maybe it is the Raytheon knife missile, but are there any companies using drones for search and rescue? I think there are. I can't pull any off the top of my head, but that definitely would fall under the commercial applications. But then also, actually, the military will use that too. When they have to go look for downed pilots, they'll send drones out to survey the area. The police use drones. Oh yeah, yeah, we're still yeah, the knife drone. It's a very yeah, it sounds crazy, but it's something we actually made. So I can't believe it either. So yeah, there are different organizations that will use drones for search and rescue. They again, sometimes the military will lend a hand if it's a big enough crisis, but then I'm sure there are a few startups in the area or a few commercial startups somewhere in the sector, drone darts, yeah, that will do search and rescue with their drones. Okay, yep, in Ohio, as well as fire emergency search and rescue. Again, wow, you guys are really into these military drones. Yes, so somebody mentioned that there were homemade drones used in combat theaters such as the Ukraine or Palestine, and they use Molotov cocktails to get a KIA as well as kamikaze drones. Yeah, yeah. So unfortunately we're not going to do that with our drones. We're just going to fly them around for funsies. But if you were so interested in joining the military, there are plenty of opportunities to be a remote pilot, and those those people do a lot of work. Like that's probably one of the fastest growing sections of the Air Force right now, as a matter of fact. Um, okay, moving on. Okay, so pop quiz time. I just got to check to make sure you guys are paying attention. So we talked about the types of drones that we have and the types of flying that we're doing. So can somebody in the chat tell me really quickly what type of drone do you have and what type of flying are we doing? Again, the types of drones are fixed wing, rotary, and hybrid, and then the types of flying are recreational, commercial, and military. So anybody in the chat, just let me know. Rotary, recreational. Okay, somebody has a fixed wing. Wow, like you're okay. You're a serious drone pilot then. Yep, quad and recreational. Good, good. Just got to make sure y'all are paying attention. It seems like y'all are, which is great. Fixed wing, awesome. All right. So before we kind of get into flying, we're just going to go briefly over the components of a drone, aka it's the drone anatomy. So the first component, and they're all pretty important, but this one will get you if you don't spec it right when you're building a drone. Ask me how I know. This is the frame. What this is it's the physical structure that's going to hold all of your drone components together. So you can think about it. It's like the body of the drone. Um, there are lots of different materials used to make frames. Typically, you want that material to be a little bit more flexible. In this case, your drone is made out of a flexible plastic. A really popular material, though, that isn't as flexible but still very like durable is carbon fiber. This frame actually looks like it has carbon fiber pieces, and then it looks like the top here is 3D printed. Um, if you guys are building a drone, I do not recommend 3D printing the frame. Ask me how I know. It's because I've 3D printed a few drone frames and broke them on like the second flight. So if you're gonna get a drone frame, you can 3D print them. I highly recommend though buying something that's carbon fiber, something a little bit more durable. I think I used ABS actually. Yeah, I used ABS for that drone frame, and it's still like when it landed, it like the one of the arms completely snapped off. So at that point, I was like, let me just buy a carbon fiber one. Yeah, it'd be like that. But yeah, Jamal, uh, Jamal was asking if I used PLA. I do not recommend using PLA. Okay, 3DP has carbon fiber nylon thick print. Yeah. Oh yeah, those printers are awesome. I've used those before. Like that's a carbon fiber nylon is an awesome thing to print. So moving on to the next component. Now we have our motors and propellers. Let me see. We got something coming in from the chat. Pet G. Okay. Yeah. I've worked with that before. So motors and propellers. So basically for a fixed wing or for anything else, is that you're going to have the motors which are just going to spin, and then the propellers, like a propeller that you've seen before, is going to spin with the motor. And what that does is it's going to push air downwards to create the lift for the drone. So a couple of things to note, if you're ever trying to build your own drone or if you just want to fundamentally understand drones, the first thing is that your motors or the motor power and the propeller size are going to be dependent on your needs. So if you notice, our drones are really tiny. They have teeny tiny motors and teeny tiny props. This thing, it doesn't take much air to lift this. But if you wanted to, say, design a drone for search and rescue, you're going to need a very powerful motor and some very large props because you have to push enough air to potentially lift things or people off the ground. And so you have to take that into consideration. The other thing that is very useful to note, if you notice when you look at your drones, the blades of the propellers on each side face the opposite direction. And what's going to happen is that if you notice on each side of the drone, both the front and the back, you have one motor that's spinning clockwise and the other motor that is spinning counterclockwise. And It's important to have this because if they were both spinning clockwise, then the drone wouldn't be stable. But by having the motors go in opposite direction, it basically makes the direction of the airflow cancel each other out to give a nice, smooth lift. One more thing to consider, especially as you're working with your drones in real life, and this is related to the motors and propellers, that's why I'm telling you here, is a lot of times when people are first flying drones, they want to try to lift the drone off the ground nice and smooth or nice and slow. So they're like, okay, I'm going to slowly lift it off the ground. That is a very bad thing to do because basically the propellers are pushing the air down and that air is creating turbulence. So you'll get something called propeller wash or prop wash. And so when you're working with your drones, it's always good practice to like lift it up in the air, like get it up in the air as fast as you can. So when you're working with the throttle, which I'll explain later, you just want to go ahead and shoot that thing up. Because otherwise, if you go too slow, the drone will be very unstable. It'll start wobbling. I have I have crashed many a drone in my day. So the next part of the drone, sorry I went off on that tangent, but I definitely thought it was important, is the flight controller. This is basically the brain of the drone. What it's going to do, or what it is it's basically a little chip or computer that has sensors going into it. Those sensors can include things from the remote control. Oh, sorry. Things from the remote control. It can be camera data, it can be data from gyros, accelerometers, a bunch of other things. And so what happens is all that sensor data will come in. It will go through something called a control loop, which if you've taken a controls class, this is your standard PID controller. A lot of drones implement this, like it's a pretty solid controller. But basically, what's going to happen is just like your brain takes in all the sensory data that it gets from your eyes and your ears and all that and processes it and makes decisions. That's what happens with the flight controller is it takes in all the sensory data and then makes decisions to control the flight. Another important component for drones are the batteries. These are going to power the drone. These are very, very important because without power, your drone is falling out the sky like a brick. So the de facto standard right now with drones, especially recreational drones, is something called lithium polymer or LiPo batteries. This is because they have for all the power that they generate, they're relatively lightweight. Like if you look at your drone, this teeny tiny battery is enough to power your drone, and it weighs nothing compared to other battery types. A really important thing about these LiPo batteries is that they have high surge current capacities, which means they can supply a lot of current for a little while, which is perfect when you're trying to start up multiple motors. And then another really good thing that makes them popular is that they are rechargeable. These are the same kind of batteries that are in your cell phone. They're basically in just about every popular electronic device that you can think of. Keep in mind, though, LiPo batteries, there are safety issues to consider. These can explode. I don't know if you guys were familiar with the Samsung batteries that like exploded in people's phones, but now luckily these batteries right here, actually, wait, got a comment. LOL, yeah. Yeah, so just as you're handling these LiPo batteries, be careful. And also, if you start to see damage to the battery, if you start to see the battery swell or puff up, you need to go ahead and dispose of it. But you can't just throw it in the trash can. You have to look up your local regulations for disposing these LiPo batteries. So keep that in mind. And then finally, the last component our last group of components that we're going to talk about are sensors and cameras. These can be things like a GPS, an accelerometer, a gyroscope, a barometer, or a barometer, sorry. And all of these things provide information to the drone to help it create smooth and stable flight. Another type of another sensor that I wanted to highlight is the camera itself. What these cameras do is they capture pictures and videos. These can be for inspection, recreational uses. Also, there are some drones that will actually use their camera to help determine its flight controls. So it'll actually like take a look at the ground. And then you can have different types of cameras as well. You can have visible light cameras like the ones we're familiar with. You can have infrared cameras, stereoscopic cameras. So they use ultrasound, and then you have LiDAR cameras, like a bunch of different ways you can go. But essentially, the cameras, again, help it capture pictures and videos. Unfortunately, the drones that we're working with do not have an onboard camera. You can get plenty of drones that do, though. Oh, wait, we got some comments coming in. Yeah, what's the life number of recharges? So honestly, it like Surafel says, it depends on the battery. It depends on how much you use it. But for these ones, you'll get a decent amount of usage out of them. And then yes, when it gets puffy, you will have to discard it. Like you'll notice when the battery gets puffy because it'll look really swollen. I think with these drones, the flight time, if I'm not mistaken, is like 5 to 10 minutes. It just depends on how hard you're pushing it before you need to recharge it. Okay. So I promise you guys we are almost done controlling a drone. So there are multiple ways that you can control a drone. The the most popular way and the way that we're going to do it is by radio signals. Essentially, this controller has a small radio transmitter in it. The drone has a receiver in it. And from there, you can, as you move the sticks and press buttons, you will transmit information to the drone, and the drone will respond based on the signal it gets. Another way that you can control drones is you can actually pre-program them. Um, Oh yeah. Don't worry. We got the simulators and the slides too. So and it's you have to go to like the App Store, the Play Store, and download it. It's really cool. Um, so but anyways, going back to controlling a drone, you can also just program the drone to like fly on a pre-programmed path. What that means is like I can tell the drone, hey, lift up, go 20 feet in the air, turn right, turn left, and then land, and it will just do that on its own. It's stored in the memory on the flight controller. And then finally, you can have a drone fly completely autonomously. So it doesn't you can basically tell the drone, hey, I want you to start at this point and end at another point, and then use your sensors and all the information that you can gather to find the best way there. So you will often see combinations of this. So the drones that oftentimes like this drone and many commercial drones will combine basically the radio signals that it gets from the user, and then it will use its own sensor data to autonomously correct. And so let's say like you're flying, if the drone will do things to correct itself to make sure it kind of stays stable. And when you ask it to move right, it'll only go right and not necessarily be jerky. So that's again combining the radio signals and then its own autonomous information. Okay, drone operations. This is very difficult to explain over a computer. You will definitely see this in the flight sim, and you will definitely see this when you're working with the real drone. Here, let me show my camera so that way I can actually see what you guys are seeing. So when you manipulate a drone, you typically do it in terms of throttle, pitch, roll, and yaw. So those are the four factors that you typically will change to position of the drone. So throttle, sorry, I had to let someone in. Okay, so what throttle is going to do is throttle will essentially determine how hard the motors are spinning in general. So if I turn the throttle all the way up, the drone is going to fly much higher. Like if I turn the throttle down, it's going to go lower. So throttle, you can think about it like throttle as your elevator. And guys, correct me if I'm wrong. I we have some drone experts in here, and I'm just kind of a dude who plays with them, so I could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah. So throttle will just increase the speed so you can actually take higher lifts. So that's what it does.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the next thing is something called pitch, and so let's imagine that this is the front of the drone. So that way, just so you guys can see it, when you pitch, you are technically rotating it along its y-axis. For those who are mathematically inclined, and what it's going to do is it's going to tilt the drone forwards or backwards. So this is going to be pitch. It's gonna, yeah, Jasmine, I see your head moving with it. It's like wee. So that's going to be pitch. And so you can think about it again. If this is the front of the drone, you're pitching it up and pitching it down. Um, And then the next component is going to be roll. That's actually rotating it along its x-axis. So if you guys like played Star Fox 64, you saw like Top Gun, whenever the jets go like this and they kind of do that barrel roll, that's rotating it along its x-axis, and that's what we call roll. And then yaw is going to be rotating it along its z-axis. So what it's going to do is it's like turning the drone around. It's like we. I know this is very scientific, you guys. Yeah, I see. Yeah, Jasmine, you're like the first person I see. You're like, but this is very scientific. So again, if this is the front of the drone, pitch is going to be up or up and down like we. Roll is going to be do a barrel roll like we. And then yaw is going to be like spinning it around like so. You'll definitely see this when you fly the drone in like either the flight sim or in real life. Um, so typically this is a bit backwards. So the left stick with the drone, like if you have the controller in your hand, the left stick is going to be up and down will be your elevator or your throttle. Left and right is going to be your yaw. The right stick up and down will be your pitch, and then left and right will be your roll. Um, so continuing on, so there are two things to consider when you're flying a drone. You can fly it in either something called irregular or something called regular mode or something called headless mode. Regular mode means that the drone's orientation, like you have to basically keep up with which direction the drone is facing. Because, for example, if the drone is facing me and I tell it to pitch forward, it's going to go into the camera like so. But if the drone is facing the camera and I tell it to pitch forward, it's going to go into the camera like so. But if the drone is facing me and I tell it to go forward, because the orientation of the drone is flipped around, that means it's going to come towards me. So if you're flying a drone in regular mode, you have to kind of keep up with the position and the orientation of the drone as you're controlling it. Um, this is actually a little bit more intuitive to me just because like I played lots of video games like Star Fox. I played with flight sims, and then I've actually flown planes before in real life. So like just pitch, roll, and yaw makes sense to me. And so like thinking about it, just is like, oh, okay, like I can quickly orient the drone in my head. So like, hold on, we got a chat. Okay, yeah, yep. Just make sure to catch the recording and have a wonderful afternoon. So like for example, if I'm flying the drone and all of a sudden it faces here, like in my mind, I can keep up with the drone's orientation, and so it's easier for me to control it regular. But for some people and for a lot of beginners, that can be a challenge. And so many drones, including this one, have something called a headless mode. And what this does is that the drone's orientation will change with the controller. So right now, again, if the drone was facing the camera and I tell it to go forward, it's going to go forward, but or it's going to go into the camera. But if the drone is facing me and I tell it to go forward, it's actually going to go backwards relative to me. But in headless mode, if even if the drone is facing me, if I tell it to go forward, it's just going to go forward because essentially it keeps up with the drone's orientation, so that way you don't have to. Now, me personally, like because if you're used to flying in the regular mode, when I fly headless, it's very confusing because the drone doesn't go where I think it's going to go. So it's all about your preferences. I'm sure. So it's in your instruction manual how to cut it on between headless and regular. So I'm sure you guys can play with that as you're working with the drone. But again, just to kind of go over the slides. So in regular mode, the drone's orientation does not change. You have to keep up with it. And this is a little bit more difficult, but once you get it, it's kind of just intuitive if you've flown things before. In headless mode, hold on, let me see the chat. Jamal, I appreciate your Star Fox reference. Maybe not, but I see where you're going, and I respect it. But yes, also I was a beast in Star Fox 64. I had my friends try to 3v1 me. I could take them all down. Like I did that. So I'm a pretty decent pilot in video games. And so again, with headless mode, the drone orientation changes with the controller, telling the drone to move right, or telling the drone to move right on the controller will make the drone move right regardless of its orientation. This is easier for beginners, but again, it can be disoriented if you're used to flying the other way. And also, you're kind of relying on the drone sensors between you're relying on sensors between the controller and the drone, and sometimes those sensors can break, so use at your own risk. Okay, where am I on time? Perfect. All right, so regulation and safety. So there are different regulatory authorities. This is going to be based on where you are in the world. In the United States, we have the FAA. In Europe, they have EASA. In South Africa, they have SACAA. Cyril, do they have anything specifically in Nigeria for drones?
No, they are currently building a platform for it as NCAA. They are still working on it anyway. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
And then what about in Ethiopia?
Uh, I know about
No, I don't
Kenya.
think we have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Africa is still growing
Uh,
when it comes to regulations on this stuff anyway. I think it's just South
Yeah.
Africa that really has like a very
Yeah.
strong drone space at this time.
yeah, that because Africa as a continent is going to be a world power. Like there are way too much. There's way too much resources. There's just way too much. There's too many good to grow. So I'm excited to see that. Um, again, depending on where you are, you have to check in with your regulatory authorities. Some general rules. If you're going to fly, especially bigger drones commercially or in public places, you may have to register your drones. Again, this depends. You have to check your local regulations. You have to keep in mind things like maximum altitude. In the United States, it's 400 feet for regular for what is it? I can't think of the word. Recreational flight. So it's 400 feet for recreational flight. There are also restricted zones that you can't fly in. So basically, airports, never fly a drone in an airport. Not a good idea. Government areas. So if you're near a military facility, definitely don't fly it there because they will shoot it down. I don't know that from firsthand experience, but I never want to find out. Also, you have to think about certain rules like line of sight. What that means is that you should always be able to see your drone, and if you can't, you need to go through emergency procedures to land your drone safely. Flying over crowds, again, in most cases, you're not supposed to fly over crowds. Actually, if you see people at weddings, you notice they always fly around crowds, but never directly over them. And then weather conditions, like you don't want to fly in like a thunderstorm or anything crazy like that, unless you're working specifically with the Weather Channel or NOAA. Um, some safety practices to consider. Where would you get flight maps? You can check in with the FAA, and they would tell you. They would tell you the different airspace regulations. But just so you know, if you're flying in your home or in your backyard, it's yours up until a certain amount. So you have, like, if you're flying in your backyard, you can fly up to 400 feet, no problem, no questions asked. If you go go to the FAA website, it can point you to where to get flight maps. So some things for safety, you should always do your pre-flight checks before you start playing with your drone. Just make sure the drone's not broken, make sure the battery looks good, it's not swollen, make sure the propellers are all in place and secured. You should also think about emergency landings or emergency procedures and landings. For example, before I take this drone off, I keep my finger on that land button. It's the button with the two arrows, the one pointing up and down. That's the takeoff and land. So that way, if the drone's flying and I lose control of it, I just press that button and it will gently land. And then also, you have to think about privacy concerns. You don't want to fly drones in people's backyards, especially here. I live in the southeastern United States. They will shoot your drone. People people are a little paranoid. They will definitely shoot your drones. Any tips for building fleet managers for autonomous robots? I think that would definitely, you should definitely, Serafel, I feel like that's more of a question for you since you do a lot of research with drones. Um, but I think that's a Serafel question, but it's definitely a conversation we can have later if you would like. Okay, and then here are just, some good guidelines to follow. So for your flight environment, you always want to fly in an open area, maintain line of sight. So you want to be able to see your drone. And then this says fly below 328 or 100 meters. Generally, you get 328 feet or 400 or 100 meters. In the US, you get 400 feet. So 400 feet is really high, though. Like, I don't even know if these radios for this drone will go out to 400 feet. Um, so other things to consider, you want to avoid flying over or near obstacles, crowd, high voltage power lines. Definitely don't do that. Trees, airports, or bodies of water. Definitely bodies of water. Ask me how I know, because I definitely have lost a drone to the ocean or two. I've lost a drone or two to the ocean, rather. And so also remember, do not use drones in adverse weather conditions such as rain, snow, fog, wind, etc. All right, so here is now we're transitioning to the actual practical part. So there are two things you can do. Here's a video of the flight simulator just to show you. It gives you, if you notice, the left and the right stick, and you're actually able to control the drone, and it's a pretty safe environment. If you crash it, nothing happens because it's on your phone. Also, there you have the ability to switch between regular and first person view. I'll run that back again just to show you. Um, Whoops, sorry. Let me go back to here. I had to make a short video, otherwise it would have taken forever to download. But here I switched to first person, and you see me moving the drone. So this is going to be on your phone. There's a version on your laptop if you want to download it, but the phone I thought would be easier and a bit more intuitive for everyone. So I'm going to go ahead and drop this link in the chat. And what you're going to do is you can scan the QR code. You can also just look for the DJI store in your app store. In the meantime, I'm also going to join this call from my phone to show you what the flight simulator looks like. So give me just a second. Gmail. But essentially, you're going to go there and you're going to download the DJI app. From there, you just have to create a free account. I think they just ask for your email. It's nothing too crazy. I also opted out of all the emails so that way they don't harass me with stuff. Hold on for just a second. I have to sign into Eventbrite from there it is. Hold on, gotta log in through Google. Open in Zoom. We're gonna cut this camera off, cut my mic off, and then join, admit. Progress. Okay, it's kind of weird because I can always see myself. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing from this, and then I'm going to start sharing from start video, share, screen. Display over other apps. Hold on for just a second, y'all. Hold on for just a second, guys. I do apologize. Zoom. Wait, what happened to my Zoom? Do, 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 do. But I just wanted to again show you guys what it would look like on the phone, so that way it's a bit more intuitive. But also, if you guys have downloaded it already, let me know in the chat. Right. Okay. Oh, I gotta let myself back in. Okay, now we got to go Zoom. We're going to share screen, entire screen. Hold on, I may have to make myself a host. Hold on for just a second. Put in waiting room, remove and rename, report, chat, reactions, captions. Hey, Dr. Barry, are you still here? Hold on for just a second, y'all. I do apologize. Okay, this isn't going as I planned, so let me go to plan B, which is let me just show you let me just show you kind of what my screen would look like. So um do do let me share my screen because I tried to cast it. Actually, no, you guys don't need to share. I don't have to share my screen. You just got to see my camera. So I tried to cast it. I tried casting my phone to my computer, and that's just been a disaster. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the DJI Store app. DJI. So I open the app on my phone. It puts me at the DJI Store. And then from there, what I'm going to do is there's a little button or key that says Explore. And then from here, I don't know if you guys can see it, but it says Virtual Flight. So I click on Virtual Flight, and then that allows me to open up the flight simulator. It's loading right now. Okay. And so from here, admit. So here we see the drone. You got to swipe up to get it to take off, and then it's giving me the left stick, which is controlling the. I'll face it this way, but this is the throttle. Like me, if I push it up and down, you see the drone will actually go up and down like so. Now, if I want to fly forward, again, I'm pitching the drone forwards and backwards with the right stick. And then if I want it to roll, I roll the right stick. And now I've completed all the training. And so from there, what I can do is I can lift the drone up, then down. I can roll it. I can pitch it forward, and then away we go. And then, like I mentioned, to yaw the drone, I just take the left stick and move it left and right. And then from there we go. Um, you don't see Explore? Can we move the throttle to the right side? Unfortunately, no. I think it's pretty set. This is usually your standard configuration. Um, if you guys don't see Explore, what you can do is let me open up the app again because it may be different depending on your operation system. So let's just go back here, exit. What you may be able to do is search in the products. If you search virtual flight, does it come up? RTUF flight. The Again, the Explorer, there should be a menu at the bottom of the screen, and it looks like a compass and it says Explore. It's right by where your account, like it's right by where your account settings are. So if you guys want some time in the flight simulator, just definitely play around with that app. The virtual flight simulator is free. You get that one situation, and then from there, you just get a little bit of experience. But it has been an hour. If you Can I get a show of hands of who actually has their drone? Okay, cool. I got one, two, sweet. Um, can somebody in the chat, anybody in the chat, were you guys actually able to find the flight simulator? I know somebody had an issue finding it. Okay, so Jasmine found it. Sweet. Okay, so people, it does work to a degree. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually going to go ahead and hand off to Cyril and Surafel. And if you guys want to, Surafel, you said you had some pre-recorded videos of flying the drone. Is that true?
Uh, yeah, I think I don't have it now, but it's with Dr. Beatty, I think. Maybe I can just demo now. I can show them the drone. It's fine.
Okay, cool. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna drop off. I'm so sorry I have to go, guys, but thank you so much. I will definitely let them handle it, and they're gonna do a wonderful job. And I will see you guys later. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And yeah, you guys, Sarah, take it away. All right, everyone.
Uh, so I can just show you how you can configure the drone. I hope everybody can. Uh, yeah. So basically, this is the drone, and you should all get the battery. You have the drone, and you have the transmitter or the flight controller. So the when you open the box, you should get the props. How do we get the drone? You should be able to purchase it, or you should reach out to Dr. Berry, I think. But I know that she told me like 16 students have already got the drone. That's why I'm hoping that you guys already have the, yeah. So like 16 of you guys already have the drone. But I just want to show you how you can configure the drone. Maybe I can drop a link if, yeah. Okay. Yeah, basically you have four props, which means it's a quadcopter. So the the diagonal ones, they always rotate in the same direction. And same thing for this one. They act in the opposite direction. So these two will rotate in the same direction, whereas this will spin in the same direction. So you have to make sure that they are spinning in the right direction, because that's how the forces are going to balance out. Aaron was mentioning about the lift force, because that's how the drone is going to take off. It's going to generate the lift. Then by varying by changing the speed of the motors, that's how the drone is going to go forward. It's going to roll, or it's going to yaw. So basically, that's how it works. Let me see. The brand says Air Genius. I can type it. AIRGN Genius. This is the brand. And once you place the propellers properly, then you can mount the batteries. You have to make sure that they're charged. We have this charger here. It's a USB stick. Then once you charge this, you just have to go and place the battery, and you have this white button here. You just have to push it down, and once the battery is in, you can see the drone glowing. So now it's connected, and the drone is powered up. The next thing is you have the transmitter or the flight. You have the transmitter, which is our remote controller. We're going to control the drone using this. So you have to you also need to place the batteries inside. Then once you place that, you can turn the transmitter here. Then you will see a red LED blinking, which means the transmitter is on, but it's still not ready. It's not ready. So you can use this throttle to set it up so that you can put this up and down. And now it's the red LED is just blinking. It was blinking. Now it's a straight red LED. So now that you know the transmitter is connected with the drone properly. So something that I found interesting is the drone can do 360 flips. So that's when after you take off, after you fly, you can use the 360 button so that it can do an acrobat. It was really fun. And the other is you can fly in headless and in regular mode. I have tried the regular mode. I haven't tried the headless mode. So the regular means the drone the drone always have this face. So you have to make sure that it's facing in the right direction. So if someone is going forward, he has to face on the proper direction. So on the bottom you can see there is a red mark. That's the face of the drone. So you have to align it like this. If I'm flying the drone, then I have to make sure this red button is on the front side. So this will be my front side. So you can take off from your hand. It's very safe, but you have to do it outdoors, like just to be safe, so that you don't crash the drone. So now that the blue LED is blinking, I will just use the button in the left side, which is on the middle one. When you hit that, the drone will change to green LED, and now it's in regular mode. So that's the easiest way to first start flying these drones. It's very safe and it's very easy to fly this way. So it's in regular mode, which means if it's glowing in green, it's safe and you can start flying it. So what you have to do is just arm the drone. You can see it's spinning now. The motors are spinning, and then I can just start flying it. Since I am in my room, I'll just disarm the drone. So that way you can start flying the drone. You can just do it later after the session is over. But I hope this makes things clear, how you can set up the.
Can I ask a question?
If you have any
I'm
questions.
sorry. Can I ask the question? Can
Sure.
you go back and show me
Sure.
again how to take the blinking light off of the controller again?
Okay. So on the left, you have 6 buttons, right? On the left and on the right,
Yes.
three buttons. So on the left side, hit the middle one.
Okay.
So that will change the color to green. Which means it's in regular mode, so it's much easier to fly it this way.
Do I have to hold it or just
No,
press
you just
it?
have to press it.
Okay. And if
Yeah.
it's still
So first,
still blinking, so what's wrong if it's still blinking? It's not turning green.
Okay. So first, is the RC just glowing red or it's blinking? Is the RC still blinking?
It's just blinking red.
Yeah. So in that case, it means the transmitter, this one, and the drone are not properly connected.
Okay.
So what you have to do is you have to arm the drone first, pull this throttle up,
Okay.
then down.
Okay.
Then that way this LED will just flash red. It will flash just
Okay.
straight. It won't blink. That way, you know it's properly connected with the drone.
Okay.
Then you can push the button. Make sure the transmitter is blinking properly. If it's just blinking, if it's flashing, then it's not connected.
Okay.
To turn off the drone, we just unplug the battery, right? There's no power
Yeah,
switch.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Are you able to fix,
No, it's still
or I can
it's
go ahead and...
red. Yeah, it's still red. It's not blinking
Okay.
anymore, but it's just red. And my drone is
Okay.
it's green.
Oh, your drone is green? Then it's
Yes.
working fine. Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah. I was saying, like, when you
Okay.
turn off, when you turn on the transmitter, this the flight controller,
Okay.
the transmitter, look, it's blinking, right?
Yes.
Yes. So I have to pull the stick up, then down. Now it's just flashing straight. It's not
Yes.
blinking. Now it's connected with the drone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you hit the middle one. When you hit the middle button, the drone should show you that it's green.
Yes, I see that. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And then you just have to arm the drone. Arming is the left stick. You just have to pull it forward. That way the motors will start spinning. You just have to leave the stick back again. Then when you arm the drone back, it will just start flying. The first is it will arm the drone. Arming means the motors will start spinning, but it will not take off. Then when you press it again, it will gain more thrust, it will gain more force, then it will start climbing up. Then you can start maneuvering the drone. If you want to disarm the drone, you just have to pull the throttle back down, or you can easily, if you hold it by hand, it will just disarm automatically. It will sense that and it will pull the stick back down if you feel like you're losing control. Is there any question? How you can set up the drone? Okay.
Michael is raising his hand up.
Yeah.
Michael. Okay.
When I press the takeoff button, all for go, but they are not armed. So when I arm the rotors, only the start is that mode. When I press the takeoff button, all for go, but they're not arming.
Can
Yeah.
you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So when I just throttle up to arm the rotors, I only get the first three going. But now none of them are going. But anyways, when I hit the takeoff, oh, you know what? It probably is gyroscopic. Okay. Yeah, so it's this rear. So if the blue ones are in the front, it's the rear left rotor that just doesn't
Yeah.
arm.
So make sure that it's properly aligned. So I would say you can see on the back side there's a red latch, right? There's a red latch on the bottom part. Can you see that? Yeah, you just have to pull that and make sure that all the arms are properly aligned. If you pull that, look, this will you can use it as, like, you can bend the motors.
Oh,
yeah.
So
make sure that it's properly aligned first.
Oh, so they all need to be okay. I was wondering why they were canted like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can pull the red latch, then you can see.
Now we're down. Okay. So that's just for storage that they need to be up like that. I
Yeah,
see.
exactly.
Okay. So I armed them right now and I still only have three. arming. So my camera's blurred, so you don't really see too well. But
Yeah. Okay.
the yeah, every time I arm it, only three go,
Only
only
one.
three rotors start.
You may have issue with one of the motors, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, but all should arm properly. Or
Okay.
you can unplug the battery and see, like, check.
Well, when I do
check.
take off, they all go. So
Yeah,
I'm assuming I'm still gonna be able to take off
yeah,
and
it should.
land.
Yeah,
So
it should work.
all right. Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Are these drones programmable? I don't think they're programmable. They're already, like, we don't have access to the
No.
to the
They are already pre-programmed by the manufacturer, so
yeah,
you
yeah,
can't be able to tweak it based on your own modification. Uh, so they are already
yeah.
programmed by the manufacturer. And I also want to share something.
Okay.
So I worked with Drone Cadets. They are based in the US initially, and I will also want to share something with us. So if you want to maybe practice this on your own and you want to have the simulation on your computer, yeah, I have a Drone Cadet mobile app which you can maybe download on your system. Though your system should be more or less high-end. So if you have a very good system, because it uses virtual reality software. So yeah. So I just sent you the link that Tony Reed, was my mentor in the drone field, sent to me. So it's more like a zip file. You need to unzip it, then you access the application. So let me see if I could just share my screen so you could just see the environment, how it's look like in so let me just share the screen. Right. Oh, so let me share. I think I have the notepad. Okay, so I'm going to share this. Okay, so when you download it, you're going to see these files. So the only thing you need is just this application, Drone Cadet. So Drone Cadet is the application that allows you to like open the application. So once you open it, then you should see something like this. Hold on. Let me see. I need to share the entire screen now. So I'm going to share this entire screen, then I'll show you what I mean. Okay. All right. I don't know. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, so this is more like Drone Cadet application, right? So it's the organization I actually worked with for a while. Like we trained some students in New York Bronx and some schools in the community center in New York. So we were able to like first we need to use these oaths to like first, the laws of drones and all the stuff. So there are some things you need to also have in mind for you to go fly drones. Okay, so you need to know these laws. So the application just gives you the laws, accepts. Then you can then go into flight trainings. It has drone race. It has workshop and also the website, right? Them, right? Then it shows you some of the things to do. So you see, it's more like how I say it's visual friendly. So you see what throttle means. This is what EO means, right? So it's kind of like making it pictorial. Then the drone, you need to give yourself some space. You don't take the drone because the blades may not be harmful, but they also can hurt, right? Too. So you need to give yourself some also they can be dangerous. All right. So these are free flights. These are free flight for it. So I'm using my arrow button to fly this now. Okay. All right, so that's just opportunities to see the applications of drones in real world. Like for example, for what they call it, for rescue operations on knowledge and it. So if you click on this, it shows you mission. So this is more like a mission that allows you to go for rescue operations. All right. Then you now go then. All right. So I don't want to take your time. So I'm going to just all right. All right, so because of our time, let me just stop here, right? So I'm just going to just let us know that we can download. Do you have a beautiful Mac? Oh, okay, okay. I just saw this message now. I've been busy with the whole session. Oh, so we don't have for Mac. This is actually for Windows at the moment. So, but I would need to talk to Tony Reed, right? I'll ask him if there's one for Mac. So I can send it to Dr. Berry or send it to the mail. So we get to have it if we have for Mac. So, but for now, this is one for Windows. Will it work on Linux? No, no, no. It doesn't work for Linux. This is just the Windows build, and found it in store. Okay. Found it. Okay. So, Jasmine, did you have any? Have you gotten anyone yet for computer? I think you're muted. You maybe need to unmute. Jasmine, you said you have one already for Apple, right?
Yeah, I found it in the App Store on my phone. On my phone.
Oh, okay, okay, fine.
For
Okay.
iPhone, yeah.
Okay, that's cool then. That's cool. All right. So I think that's all for today. I don't know if you have any other question because we're good. All right. Thank you very much for joining today. I really appreciate this. Who has any question? Anyone in the is there any other one who has a question? Okay.
I
Oh,
do. I
okay.
have one question. I could not open the file you sent in the chat, the Google document. What's the name of it again?
Okay, the one I sent in the chat, it's a Google file and it's a zipped file, so you might not be able to open it till you download it. So it's a zip file.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a zip file. So, but it allows you to download it.
Okay.
Yeah, once you download it, you need to unzip the file.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's actually protected
I'm
though.
on
So
my
yes.
phone, so
Okay, okay, yeah. So it's
okay.
only just on your computers that you can be able to like get the whole stuff.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right, I think we are done for today. If there is no question, maybe we can call it a day. All right, then. Thank you for joining, everyone. If I see any update, I'm going to share. If I see for Mac, maybe for example, I'm going to share. And for those of us asking for Linux, I'm also going to share with Dr. Berry so we can share with the team as well. Thank you once again for joining. And
Oh,
yeah,
I have one. I'm sorry.
okay.
Can we get a copy of this presentation for the one that signed up? Is it gonna be emailed to us, or will we be able to access it? I know it's recorded, so
Oh, yeah, sure.
are we gonna get a copy of it? Possibly.
Okay,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
yeah.
should.
Yeah, I think Dr. Berry has a copy. I personally have a copy here on my computer, so I can actually edit it, right? Just clean up some stuff and make it mobile friendly or make it more
Yeah, I
portable
can
for
share it with
transfer.
Dr. Berry so that it's fine. We can
Yeah,
share it later.
yeah, yeah. I will relate with Dr. Berry so he can make it available for you. Okay. Oh, someone is asking if we have for Linux. Okay, I'm going to ask the Tony Reed. So I'll ask him if there is anyone for Linux or Mac. All right. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. You can drop your thank you in the chat. We appreciate your support. Thank you for joining. And you can reach out to us on LinkedIn. I actually follow Jasmine Lawrence on LinkedIn, so I know her very much. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. All right, now bye. All right. So Raphael, maybe I will talk to you later. Yeah, so yeah. So I get to know some stuff about your drone stuff, right? All right then. Okay, so I'm gonna end the call so we can stop recording.